Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Wednesday, April 15th edition of Douglas Now Live. I am Robert Preston Jr., live in the Douglas Now studios on West Walker Street. A little bit later than we typically like to be on here tonight, but it has been a hectic day and a hectic week. So here we are. I have a couple of stories I want to go over tonight and discuss a little bit, maybe provide a little more perspective on some of these stories than we got into on the website. Everything that we're going to talk about is either on the DouglasNow.com website or the DouglasNow.com Facebook page, but we have an opportunity to talk about these particular topics and get into a little more of a discussion than we do when we're just writing on the website. The first story that I want to talk about here tonight is not a good one. And, I was debating whether or not to even discuss this. If you followed us here on Douglas Now Live, we don't typically talk about a lot of crime stories, get into those kinds of things here. And I try to stay away from that in this particular format for a variety of reasons. But this is something that has really struck a nerve with our community today. It's a tragic event, and it's one, excuse me, it's one that I don't like to cover, and I don't want to cover. I know people think that when negative stories happen, that the news can't wait to jump on that. And there are a lot of news outlets maybe that like that. All right, I don't. I would much rather talk about positive things than I would negative things. And typically when we're here in Douglas Now Live, in this particular platform, we talk about positive stuff. But this was a pretty big event today. My phone started ringing this afternoon around 5 o'clock, about an hour and a half after the initial call. And I want to mention it at least for a few minutes. And this afternoon, a little after 3:30, a call came in to 911 that a young man, 21 years old, was in distress in a pond on the east end of the 206 connector. That pond is commonly referred to as the Blue Hole. It's a clay pit that has water in it year round. It's a little bit out in the woods, and people like to go in there and swim and hang out. There were 4 people swimming today, 3 males, 1 female. And according to folks I talked to with knowledge of the situation, at some point when they were in the water, one of the individuals stepped into a deep spot. You can't see the bottom, and stepped into a deep hole that was over his head. And he was unable to get back to shore, and he lost his life in the incident. First responders took off. And, that's right near the county fire department. All right. It's, through the woods. It's not very far at all. But this is a thing you have to keep in mind when you're dealing with a situation like this. And it's not just a drowning, but anytime someone is deprived of oxygen, you've got probably a minute and a half at most to respond. And anything outside of that, it's probably not going to turn out very well. And even as close as the incident was to the county fire department, someone has to call 911. 911 has to alert the fire department. They have to mobilize with a water rescue or recovery, such as the case may be. They've got to hook to a boat and get gone. And then this particular water hole was not really easy to get to. There's a pretty good path you could drive down, but it's rough. It's a little slow going. So you've got to get down there, get the boat in the water, and then try to find out where the individual is. So, you're talking several minutes. And when you've got about 90 seconds, it doesn't take long for that 90 seconds to expire. So, again, the name of the individual has not been released, but people know who it is. And again, our thoughts and prayers go out to the family. It's a sad situation all the way around, and I'm not being flippant about that. I'm not being condescending. I'm not trying to give a false sense of grief with this. I have a son about the same age, a couple of years. Well, I have one son a little bit older and one son a little bit younger. And as parents, we think about these things. We think about what can go wrong. There's so many things that can go wrong when our kids are out. And I think about those kinds of things regularly. You never quit worrying about your children. It's just a sad, sad situation that I don't like reporting on because there's no good way to report it. There's not a lot of information to give. And we certainly don't want to sensationalize it, but when you see social media posts and people start asking questions and people want to know information, what we try to do is provide the answers to those questions appropriately and respectfully. And I hope we do a good job. And I know not everybody agrees with us with how we report and what we do, but again, we try to keep that in mind whenever we report. But again, it's a terribly, terribly sad situation, and I don't like it. I don't like reporting on it. But again, our thoughts and prayers go out to the family. But please, and there's some things I would like to talk about these kinds of issues, but I want to do it later. Now is not really the time, but as we get into summer and people are near the water and they're swimming and out on boats and jet skis and things like that, please, please, please be very careful. And please understand how dangerous the water is. Of course, it's fun being in the water. That's part of what summertime is about. But water is very unforgiving. It's very dangerous. And it doesn't take much. There's a very small margin of error when you're dealing with water. And we take it for granted. All of us take it for granted that we're going to jump in a swimming pool, or you're going to jump in a pond, a lake, or a river, and we're going to come back out. And that doesn't always happen. But there are probably some issues that we could get into about some of this stuff. But again, now is not the time. Right now, we need to remember this family and keep them in our thoughts and prayers. It's going to be a very difficult next few weeks, months, and really, this is the kind of thing you don't ever get over. You just don't ever get over. The pain never goes away, and that's what makes it so bad. So again, please keep the family in your thoughts and prayers. Posted a story this morning about an award that the city of Douglas has received, International Excellence in Community Advancement Award for the Tax Allocation District. You haven't heard that name in a while, but such is the arrangement that the city of Douglas entered into with the Jones Company and several other entities to get the Douglas Square Shopping Center built. Now, this is an old picture, an old rendering of the Douglas Square Shopping Center. Kind of interesting. You can see up here the tennis courts at South Georgia State College. Those courts are no longer there. They were torn up in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. And you can see the layout. Now, it was a little bit lazy to use this photo, but I wanted to get a picture up to break up the sports stories that we had. I told y'all last time we met that we were very sports heavy. We continue to be very sports heavy, and we're going to be very sports heavy over the next few weeks. But yeah, so this is kind of an interesting photo. The shopping center does not look exactly like this, but the city has been nationally recognized with the International Council of Shopping Centers Excellence in Community Advancement Award, an honor celebrating public-private partnerships that spark transformative retail and mixed-use development. Don't you love press releases and industry jargon? This award celebrates initiatives that drive economic opportunity, enhance community well-being, and create lasting value through innovative development strategies. The Douglas Square and Tax Allocation District project was submitted for the award in the redevelopment revitalization category in the rural classification. The collaboration behind the Douglas Square Tax Allocation District was a project that brought together the city of Douglas, Coffee County, the Coffee County Board of Education, the University System of Georgia, South Georgia State College, the Georgia Department of Transportation, JBS Capital, Perlis Nice, and the Jones Company. The united efforts have produced a visionary development that is reshaping growth, investment, and opportunity across the community. What does all that mean? It means that the Tax Allocation District, the Douglas Square Shopping Center, has made a tremendous difference on Douglas and Coffee County, the appearance of our community, the economic well-being of our community, the quality of life for the people who live in our community, for all of us. And it is an award that the city deserves. It's an award that our community deserves. Now, I want you to think back though, because this started actually before COVID. It got delayed during COVID. And if you remember, Chick-fil-A opened while we were in full COVID swing. They were open for drive-through only for a while. And then even after COVID, the various restrictions that we had to deal with during COVID, when those restrictions were lifted, Chick-fil-A stayed drive-through for quite a while. What I was told was they were having a hard time finding people who wanted to go back to work after COVID. So it was quite a while before Chick-fil-A actually opened its doors and welcomed customers inside. Now, let's look back over the last 4 or 5 years. What would we do without Douglas Square? It did not take long for Douglas Square to become ingrained in our community. And for all of us, even those who did not like the tax allocation district idea when it was first proposed, we all love Douglas Square now. The tax allocation district, kind of interesting. There was a lot of disinformation, misinformation, and misunderstanding about exactly what the tax allocation district was. People thought that it was a way of giving tax breaks to businesses that were coming into the shopping center, which would thereby create an unequal playing field, an unlevel playing field for new businesses versus existing businesses in the community. There was a lot of controversy about it. A lot of people were mad, and a lot of people didn't like it. Now, that's not what the tax allocation district is. It doesn't give tax breaks to businesses. It's much more nuanced and complicated than that. But they didn't really get tax breaks. Okay. And there are some people on that list who got recognized, the list that I just read, who were not in favor of the tax allocation district. All right. Not everybody was on board with it. It was a tough sell, tougher than it should have been. And I remember thinking when it happened, when it was proposed, first of all, this is not the correct information. This is not what the tax allocation district is. This is not what it's going to do. And my other thought was, give it 6 months and nobody will even remember that we had this discussion. And that's where we are, although it's longer than 6 months. But you think about what that tax allocation district has done, how it has transformed our community. And it has. And we've talked about it plenty of times, and I don't want to rehash all that, but it has absolutely transformed our community. It's been one of the single biggest developments, and I'm not talking about in terms of square footage, although that's a part of it, but I'm talking about in terms of something, some business, some development that has come to our community that has transformed Douglas and Coffee County. It's on par with Walmart Distribution Center. It's on par with PCC, which was actually TRW when it first came here. It's on par with those types of businesses that have created and industries that have created such a significant quality of life here in our community. All right, it really is. I mean, I don't like to speak in hyperbole and I don't like to exaggerate, and I'm not doing so. I honestly think it is. If you go back and remember what was on that piece of property, you had the Board of Education Central Office, which was located right here where Longhorn Steakhouse is. And you had the old high school building, which was most of this right here. A lot of this was a parking lot. And then over here, you had the walking track, which I must confess, I wish there'd been a way to continue to keep the track here. I liked having that track, but we get more use out of the property now than we did before. And then all this was just open. So this whole area here was basically two buildings. The high school here, the Board of Education here, and then nothing. All this out here open. Now look at what we have. Look at what we get out of it. So I know people scoff at these awards and they make fun of them and they joke around and, it doesn't mean anything. It's a recognition of what it takes between government and private business to create a quality of life and to create economic opportunity in a community. And our community has been significantly different in a good way since this tax allocation district came along. So it is a very deserving award, and I think it speaks a lot for the folks who were willing to take the risk and the criticism to do that. Because the only way you're going to get this is through some type of public-private partnership. That's the only way you're going to do it. And it's made a difference for everybody. It's benefited us in terms of tax, sales tax revenue. We meet our sales tax goals early. And it's because we have a stronger retail base. You have more people spending money here. So, it's been very profitable for our community all the way around. And it's a really neat thing. And it's a very deserving award. So, yes, when you get past all the industry speak here and all the words that don't really mean a whole lot, underneath all of that, yes, this has been phenomenal for our community. It's been amazing. And our community is a very different place now than it was 4 or 5 years ago. And a big reason why, for that is because of Douglas Square Tax Allocation District. It was a good thing. It has made a difference. Let's take a break. When we come back, we will continue talking about some positive stories here in our community. A couple of good things I want to get to. Let's take a break. We'll be back in just a second. When someone is injured in an accident, they need 3 things: answers, a plan, and a legal team they can trust. That's what you get at the law office of Bruce Edwards in Douglas, along with a healthy dose of old school toughness and modern strategy to boot. We are here to help. Give us a call and let us work for you. Welcome back. The next story, one of those positive stories that people don't really read. A lot of people comment on the Facebook page, but they don't really like to read the story. But it's a good story, and it's one I think that needs to be told, and not just told, but further discussed. Gary Blair, an employee at Tractor Supply here in Douglas, has been selected as a Going the Country Mile winner, an honor celebrating Tractor Supply team members who go above and beyond to support customers, communities, and animals. Gary was recognized for developing a friendship with a customer while delivering a mower. When the man suffered a heart attack shortly after the mower was delivered, Gary returned with a crew to mow and maintain the man's lawn, ensuring that his property was taken care of and looked its best, while friends and family visited the man while he recovered from his heart attack. Tractor Supply's Country Mile program highlights everyday actions that bring the company's mission and values to life. It began in 2015, and it progresses from daily badge nominations to monthly and quarterly recognitions, with top winners selected as annual honorees. Gary was one of 20 annual winners celebrated at Tractor Supply's annual sales meeting in Nashville and received recognition for his efforts in front of his peers. And if you followed this on the comments on our Facebook page, so many people spoke of what a good guy he was or is, and how this was one example of many in which he has in fact gone the extra mile to help folks out and to provide customer service and to take care of folks away from the store. And listen, we don't hear about stories like this enough. And it's a shame, once again, that, looking here, only 386 people read the story. We put good news out there. People don't really like it. But I don't want to ignore what Mr. Blair has done. And I don't want to not recognize him beyond just the story that we did, because that's pretty cool. And he didn't get paid for that. It shows the commitment and the heart that he has to take care of someone who cannot take care of themselves. And ultimately, no matter where we are, whether we're at work, whether we're at home, whether you're working through a church, volunteering through a nonprofit, whatever you're doing, one of the commandments that we're given is to take care of those who cannot take care of themselves. And many times you do that without any recognition. And I would be willing to bet you that Mr. Blair here did not do any of what he did in order to get recognized, in order to have us talking about him right now, or to have a story written about him. He did it because it was the right thing to do. And it was, and it made a difference, not just to this man, but I'm sure it set an example to his family. And also, listen, big business, and Tractor Supply is a pretty big corporation. Big businesses don't always have the best of reputations. Sometimes it's deserved, sometimes it's not. But you see someone who works for a large company like this, and it's very easy to get lost in profit and loss and those kinds of things. But ultimately, everything that we do in life is about building relationships. All right. If you enjoy your job, I guarantee you one of the reasons why you enjoy your work is because of the relationships you have with the people who you work with. All right. If you enjoyed going to school, you enjoy school. One, hopefully you enjoy learning, but also you enjoy the relationships that you had with your friends, your fellow students, and also with your teachers while you were engaging in the learning process. So once again, whether you work for a big business, a small business, what have you, again, you're going to build relationships with people. And if you do, you can make your workplace, you can make your everyday activities much, much more meaningful. And that's what Mr. Blair here did. So I saw that story. It was pretty cool. And I felt like that it was something that, again, needed further discussion other than just the story that we published. Going back to a statement I made a few minutes ago, we are very, very, very sports heavy. We have a lot of baseball. We have other sports going on. We've got track. You've got some region stuff. We got a lot of things we're going to be talking about over the next couple of weeks. So if you're not a sports fan, just bear with us. It won't last much longer, but there's a lot going on right now. But last night, we had something happen here at Charles Wilson Field that was pretty amazing. All right. The Lowndes Vikings are a 6A program, Coffee Trojans 5A program. Lowndes is ranked number 2 in the state, or they were at the beginning of the week. The number 2 ranked team in the state. Lowndes has won multiple state championships. They've got a really good baseball program down there. They're a bit of an anomaly here in South Georgia. It's very difficult for teams in South Georgia in the highest classification to compete with the metro schools, particularly in baseball. But not only does Lowndes compete with those schools, they beat those schools. They got multiple state titles to show for it. So Lowndes came in to Charles Wilson Field last night to play a non-region game against the Trojans. Now, Coffee's about to wrap up the regular season. We've got one more game. We play Crisp County tomorrow night here, and that's it for the regular season. Then we're going to have to sit back and wait and see what happens. Now, we've made the playoffs. We're going into the postseason as a 3rd seed. And it would be very easy to schedule some teams that aren't very good and to just kind of beat up on some folks headed in to this final week of the season. But that's not what the Coffee program did. They brought in Lowndes County. And I'm sure Lowndes thought it would be nice to get a little batting practice here as as they get ready for the postseason as well. Both teams got a little bit of batting practice in. It was a high-scoring game. I was following it a little bit, and then I saw where Lowndes pulled ahead after the fifth inning, 8-4. And I said, listen, you're in the fifth inning. Lowndes is ahead 8-4. They're not going to lose. So I quit paying attention. And that was my mistake. I hate to admit that I quit paying attention, but I did. In the bottom of the sixth inning, the Trojans absolutely flipped the game on its head. They posted 4 runs, tied the game at 8, and set the tone for what was going to happen here a couple of innings later. In that inning, Ben Fussell, remember Ben being here. Okay, we're gonna be talking about Ben again here in a minute. Ben singled to score Eli Wood. Then Jimmy Timothy drove in Evan Lingenfelter on a ground out. That moved Fussell to second and Eli Vickers to third. Barrett Harrell then singled to center, clearing the bases to tie the game at 8. So it was a big hit by Barrett Harrell that tied the game. So now we're knotted at 8. We got to go into the 7th inning. Neither team did a whole lot. And then, so high school plays 7 innings, right? So now we got to play extra innings. We go into the top of the 8th, and Lowndes doesn't do anything. All right. So Coffey goes in with an opportunity to walk it off, and that is exactly what happened. Eli Vickers led off the bottom of the 8th with a single, and that brought Fussell back to the plate. Fussell here. Now, this picture is not from last night. This is from a game earlier this season. But Ben stepped in, fouled off a few pitches. He ended up with a 2-2 count. Then he hit a triple into the right center field gap that brought in Morgan Lewis. Now, Lewis was pinch running for Vickers. Brought in Morgan Lewis to score the game-winning run. So, yeah, the Trojans shocked the Vikings last night with a 9-8 extra innings win. And I'm going to tell you something, it's hard to overstate the importance of momentum. And the Trojans needed some momentum going into the playoffs. And, Crisp County, we beat Crisp pretty big on Monday night. We're going to play them tomorrow. We should, I hate to say it, but, we should be able to come out of that game with a win. But to beat a team like Lowndes County, 6A program, one of the best 6A programs in the state, to show yourself that you can play with the best at this time of the year was pretty big. We had some solid performances last night. Fussell was 4 for 4 with 3 RBIs and 2 runs scored. Harold and Gavin McElroy had 3 hits and had 2 RBIs. Jimmy Timothy had 2 hits and he scored twice. McElroy started and went 3 innings. He gave up 5 earned runs on 5 hits, walked 2, struck out 4, and Will Walker also pitched the final 3 innings, a good outing for him in relief. He gave up 3 earned runs on 4 hits. He walked 2 and struck out 2. So we had pretty solid pitching last night, and again showed that we could overcome some hits and some runs to win the game. So yeah, it was a big game. It's a big game for the Trojans. It's also worth noting, and this is one of the things I went and thought back, and it's not something that you really think about a lot, but I think this is true. It should be true. It seems like it ought to be true. But we had sons of former Major League ball players playing against each other last night. Now, we've talked about Hunter Klesko several times. I assume that most of you know, if you follow Coffee Baseball, I know you know, that Hunter Klesko is the son of former Brave Ryan Klesko, who was a really good Brave, and I think he still has the record for the most home runs hit by a left fielder in Braves franchise history. But if you followed the Braves in the 90s, you know very well who Ryan Klesko is. Well, his son Hunter plays for the Trojans. And last night, Hunter Drew, who is the son of Stephen Drew, remember Stephen and J.D. Drew, the Drew brothers from Lowndes County, both of them played in the majors. Stephen had a 12-year major league career, primarily with the Arizona Diamondbacks. He was a catcher for the Vikings last night. So You had sons of former major leaguers, one playing for Coffee, one playing for Lowndes, playing against each other last night. That's pretty cool. I can't think of that happening. And really, we've had two Major League Baseball players from Coffee County, Greg Walker and Ricardo Ingram. And I'm not talking about folks who went to South Georgia College slash South Georgia State College. I'm talking about folks who went to high school here in Coffee. So, those kids have not have not played against each other. So, yeah, pretty interesting. I thought it was kind of a neat footnote to last night's game that you had sons of former major leaguers playing against each other. Hunter Klesko for the Trojans and Hunter Drew for the Lowndes Vikings. I would be remiss if I did not mention Jackson Knight for CCA as well. What a day he had on Monday. If you haven't read that story, you need to. Jackson, again, played for CCA. He's also on the golf team, CCA's golf team. And they had the region golf meet or golf match up in Hawkinsville on Monday. So he went up there and played golf and shot a 73. Tied for the lowest score of the tournament. He tied with teammate Ace Harris, who is an 8th grader. Ace has been one of the top youth golfers in the Southeast for a long, long time. And he's now playing on the varsity golf team. So he and Jackson fired 73s and took home co-low medalist honors. Well, had a baseball game Monday night as well. And Jackson wanted to play baseball, so he goes out and shoots a 73 on a legit golf course up in Hawkinsville, hurries back down here, is in the lineup, and then the Patriots were sputtering a little bit against Vidalia Heritage. They had started to pull ahead a little bit, but they got off to a really slow start, and they didn't hit their stride. They were up 4-0 when Jackson came to the plate. I believe it was in the 5th inning maybe, and he connected with a pitch and hit a home run, a 3-run home run to put CCA up 7-0 and pretty well sealed the deal. Now, it was not a walk-off. It did not win the game, but it clinched the game. The Patriots went on to score 2 more runs late in the game and won 9-0. They came back and played Vidalia Heritage yesterday and beat them 18-0. So I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that Jackson's home run sparked not only a rally for the remainder of that game, but could have fueled a little bit of inspiration for what happened yesterday. So it was one of the biggest days on the baseball field you're going to see any local player have. And I say baseball, I mean, take it in its totality. A 73 is a 73. All right? I don't care who you are. 73 is a 73. He went up there and shot that and then came home and hit a big, crucial home run in a big region game later that day. That's as good a day as you're going to have. It's about as good a day as you're going to have. So again, congratulations to CCA Patriots. Congratulations, Jackson. I am envious of both of your accomplishments, but I tell you, that 73, golly. If you're a golfer, you know how difficult that is. Let's take a break. We'll come back and wrap up with a couple of more quick items we need to discuss. And then we shall be done for this edition. We'll be back in just a second. A car accident can have serious consequences far beyond the initial crash. Your life and the lives of your loved ones can be turned upside down. Missed work, lost wages, totaled vehicles, and insurance companies that don't want to help. You need a law firm that will fight for you. You've come to the right place. One thing I want to mention real quickly, tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. will be a grand opening at Lee Hardware of Douglas. All right, Lee is the new name of the old True Value Hardware over here on the west side of town, not terribly far away from our Douglas Now studios. Over there in, Red Owl Coffee is over there now. But the hardware store there by Vincent Electric and over on that side, unfortunately, the original True Value Hardware closed down several months ago. And then some folks came in and changed the name and reopened Lee Hardware. So they're having a grand opening tomorrow, I believe, a ribbon cutting at 11 a.m., but they're going to have door prizes and all kinds of activities going on between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. So if you want to check out the new, I was going to say the new old, but maybe that's not the best way to put it, but the new Lee Hardware over in Douglas here. It's got, Lee's got a couple of different locations there in Waycross, there in Lakeland, and now they are over here in Douglas. So I have not been in the new store. I like having a hardware store on this side of town. And I say that as someone who is not a handyman. I am not the kind of person who is going to keep a hardware store in business, right? I'm just not. I wish I was. I wish I had those skills, but it comes in very, very convenient to have a store over here because I live on this side of town. And there were times that the True Value store really saved me a lot of travel time and a lot of aggravation and inconvenience. So I'm glad that Lee's here. But yeah, we want to make sure that folks know about this. There are going to be vendors there, food trucks, going to have special pricing, giveaways, that kind of thing. And again, with a ribbon cutting at 11 o'clock. And a ribbon cutting is always fun. We love having ribbon cuttings. But the address is 733 Bowens Mill Road, Southwest. Again, tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Let's take a look at our tower cam. Nothing to see tonight. A clear night. The weather has been absolutely fantastic, and I am enjoying what is happening here weather-wise late in April. I am looking forward to the weather even warming up even more and getting on into summer. But a nice clear night here in Douglas and Coffee County. Y'all know I like looking at the tower cam just because it's there. You can't see much at night, but we're going to look at it. And I tell people ask me, why do you always show the tower cam? Because we can. And it gives you a break from looking at me. And anytime you don't have to look at me, that is a positive. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight and streaming with us a little bit later than normal. Not my plan, not what I wanted to do, but such as the case may be this week, this is the time that we ended up meeting. We will gather again, quite possibly tomorrow, but we will be here again. And then if something big breaks, we will be here with an extra edition or two, but hopefully things will be quiet. It's been an eventful enough week. We don't want anything else to happen. So again, I thank everybody for being here with us. We appreciate it. Y'all have a wonderful, wonderful night. We will see you next time.